Welcome to this very late notice live stream from the Effect podcast. Dave and I are recording this with our guest, Mattias Johnson Haake from Free League. And I honestly don't know whether anybody's going to turn up, but if you are turning up to watch this, then ask questions in the comments and we'll pass them on to Mattias. The reason why this is late notice is I didn't actually manage to share the tweet about the fact we're doing this until about 40 minutes ago.
So it's only late notice because you are incompetent, Matt. Is that it?
I wouldn't say incompetent. I was just riding on the victory of. I won D&D last night, didn't I? Really? With
D&D?
Wow.
Alien.
Yeah. But anyway, enough about me. Let's talk to Mattias. Dave, do you want to kick off?
Yeah. Thanks.
Kick gently, please. Gentle kick.
So it's great to see you, Mattias. It's been too long since we've had you on the show, or since we've talked to you in any capacity, actually. But today we've got two things that we really want to talk about, both related to Symbaroum. Yeah, absolutely. Now we did before we came on live, we did have to make a slight confession. Having played a Symbaroum campaign some time ago, we haven't played Symbaroum for a year or two, simply because Free League have got so many other great games. It's not that we got bored of Symbaroum at all. But since then, a lot's happened, and we have coming up two things. One is the Haunted Waste, the fifth chronicle in the Throne of Thorns campaign, and we also have Symbaroum 5e Kickstarter coming up at some point. I'm sounding a little bit
really
uncertain
confident about that, just to make up for the fact that you're sounding less confident. But I'm only sounding that confident because I asked Mattias before we started.
Yeah, but if you shut up, I was building up to the question, which is tell us all about it. So where should we start? Do we want to start with 5e first, seeing that's closest with the Kickstarter next week?
Although we're right in the middle of the pre-order period for...
I can start wherever you like.
Okay. Kickstarter first, then. Let's talk about
I'm pretty sure that the pre-order for the Haunted Waste will continue past the end of the Kickstarter for 5e. So, yeah, whichever way you want to start. But I'm gladly... I can talk about the Haunted Waste first.
Go on.
Let's talk about the Haunted Waste.
We launched the Kickstarter. No, the pre-order a couple of weeks ago, and just like with Coriolis, we feel that we now have such a great and huge fan base that we don't have to rely on Kickstarter for those two IPs. When we launch new stuff, and I can say that's a super relief. And what was even more of a relief was to see how many people actually turned up to support us and Symbaroum through the pre-order instead of through because that's always a concern when you haven't tried pre-order before. We did this with The Lost Cyclade, and beforehand it was like, is Coriolis a Kickstarter phenomenon? Meaning that we won't see that much pre-orders. That worry was soon laid to rest, and even quicker so when it came to the Haunted Waste. So it feels super cool and super inspiring. We are now in the midst of post-production, so hopefully we are aiming for a release in late June. Nice. And touch wood or whatever can bring you luck. Hopefully we are on track. But yeah, things always happen. Not least because, as you said, Dave, we have quite a lot of games to cater to, and fan bases to cater to as well. So
So,
I mean, there are always a lot happening on the work floor,
yeah, absolutely. So
in the
with the
sweatshop.
in the sweatshop, is that how it feels
Yeah.
now? Is it?
Sometimes, yeah. When the crunch, you have crunching hour for 3 or 4 products at the same time with this small team, it can really feel like a sweatshop. Yes, but the gaming industry is that way in general, I think. So we are quite used to it from video games industry and such.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think from the outside, I think we all get the idea that you're working in some kind of gaming nirvana where you're just sitting in a pool of creativity and just enjoying every minute of bright colors. But actually, you're lifting the lid a little bit for us there. So,
no, I mean, of course, it's a nirvana, especially compared to other kinds of employment that you can have.
Yes.
So, on the other hand, it takes hard work. There is a vast difference between being, as we were perhaps when we first started Järnringen at the turn of the century. We did it as a hobby business. We still managed to put out a lot of stuff, but doing it as a hobby, as opposed to doing it with the aim to be able to support yourself and put food on the table, that's different things.
Different thing, different pressure, yeah. So having said that we haven't played Symbaroum for a little while, do you want to tell us a little bit about Haunted Waste then? What if what are we missing out on if we don't play Haunted Waste?
You are missing out on. I told Martin when he was working on the cover. I told him that, well, just think of this episode as the one where the player characters are headed for the Symbaroum version of Mordor.
Oh,
okay.
That doesn't mean that it's lava lakes and orcs all over the place. Not that kind of, but it is, it is a destination that you wouldn't go on for a holiday. Not even a paid one.
Is that the strap line then for the Haunted Waste? A place you don't go on holiday.
Exactly. No, so first and foremost, to me, even if the books in this series are standalone in the sense that you can play them with new characters every which one of them, and you can, jump in and just play episode number 5 if the Symbaroum version of Mordor is actually where you want to go on vacation. But to me, they are very much part of the same story arc, and we are now closing in on the grand finale. So you can say that this episode will sort of set the stage for Davokar Awakens, which is the title of the final episode in this chronicle. And this means that I don't want to spoil the experience for the player characters, but there will be some quite interesting lore developments in this one. There will be quite high profile NPCs taking part in or being part of the story. It is much more straightforward, and you can say not linear but semi-linear compared to Mother of Darkness, in the sense that it is composed of a number of adventure landscapes that are a bit smaller than Symbar, which was huge. Mainly the whole adventure took place in one great adventure location. Here you have several of them. The player characters are, as usual, very free to decide what to do in these places, how to tackle its challenges, and what to focus on in terms of play style. If you want to go problem solving, if you want to go combat or social, more social challenges and deliberations and whatnot. And you can choose in which to a certain extent in which order you visit these places. But in the end, it will be. Let me put it like this: after being at the stage where I am today with this product, and also reminding you that tastes differ, I have never been this happy about any Symbaroum product I've been responsible for.
Oh, wow.
Because it feels like, and it feels so good because, before you reach the end of such a massive storyline or story arc, you never really know if it will work dramatically. In a sense, when it comes to the narrative style of it and whatnot. And one of the reasons why I feel so joyous about this part is that it really feels like this is coming together quite nicely. I should add that because you wanted me to sell you the Symbaroum game, resell it to you, as it is designed. I mean, pick it up and play a scenario here and there. But to me, if you play Symbaroum, you do it for reals. That's the kind of game that you really should invest. Not just an evening here and there too, but maybe most evenings here, there, and everywhere.
Life, not for Christmas, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean it's fully possible to play that way, but selling you Alberitor requires me to talk to those of you out there who really enjoy the grand campaigns, the feeling of being part of a group that actually has an impact on a world that you can care about. And Symbaroum, the Symbaroum setting is hopefully a place that you not necessarily want to protect, but that you will feel for. So and long for.
Nice.
Right.
So you talked a bit about this being the fifth part, and you can jump straight in there with your players. Have you put stuff into the Chronicle, a guidance for the GM to be managing? Because presumably, as the Chronicle goes along, if you're playing the same characters, you're developing those characters, and the level of opposition becomes more powerful. So, is a group who wants to jump straight in at the Haunted Waste with brand new characters, are they just going to get slaughtered as soon as they step outside the tavern?
There are guidelines for how much extra experience to award new player characters, of course, and also what kind of abilities are more or less required to play it, or not required, because the gaming group can do whatever they like with it, but we are assuming that the characters, for instance, has a lore master when they have come this far in the campaign. We assume that one or two of them are able to sense the shadows of people and places and items in the world, for instance. So this episode is written for quite the heroic cast of characters in terms of I would say you never really become a hero in Symbaroum, because that sort of assumes that there is sort of an alignment system where you can actually be good. In Symbaroum, some people will deem you and your actions good, most likely, but there will be others that
not
don't.
Everyone.
Like excellent. So we've got two interesting players who are commenting on different streams. I'm going to start off with this one here from Thane, who's just started with the starter set. got a new group. So these guys are at the beginning of their journey, and they're going to have a wild time if they manage to play all the way through to this fifth installment. But then cutting back to the fifth installment, Frank, who's one of our patrons, says you mentioned Davokar Awakens being the last installment. Is that the closing chapter of the first edition of Symbaroum?
Oh, that's a good question. We are discussing where to go after Davokar Awakens. It's the closing chapter of the saga of the Throne of Thorns, for sure. It's the start of another story in the sense that you will see very different kinds of outcomes in different gaming groups. So that means that, the story about Ambria and Davokar is at least temporarily left to the players and the GMs to keep developing. That doesn't mean that we are leaving it forever. I mean, there are so many ways we could keep developing that setting too. But then we would have to assume that the end of the Throne of Thorns was a certain way.
Yeah,
at least to a certain extent.
I was going to ask: is there potentially sort of sweeping changes to the environment and to the lore and to the landscape, depending on how the end of Davokar Awakens plays out?
I mean, this is a role-playing game, and to me, that means that the story should always end in accordance with the play characters' choices and degree of success, if you want. So there will be. This is not one of those adventures where you, at the end, will feel that we made no difference.
We've pressed the reset button. That's about as much as we've achieved.
Made a difference one way or the other, even if it's terrible.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, if you fail one or two key dice rolls, things will probably end up very differently.
Cool.
So you've hinted there, I think, at the answer to another question from Frank, which I'm putting up here.
But can we stay with his basic answer?
Okay.
Is this the end of the first edition? I think that where we go from Davokar Awakens, we will keep developing the setting and probably focus more heavily on another part of the setting. You who have downloaded the free PDF that's called something like, it's a report from inside the game world, written by, I think it's Ralgai Melion, who is the one of the heads of the Royal Secretarium. And it also features a sketchy map of the continent, if you will, where the Symbaroum setting is placed. So we will focus probably a bit more on the city-states, as they are called. We will take a closer look at Freetown. They are the realm of the Order, where all the heretics. I have to do this because the screen is so small. All the heretics fled when Prius was, elevated as the one true god. So there are lots of places to discuss. But if that means that we will do a complete Symbaroum second edition, I mean, there are good arguments for rearranging the current content, because it has been evolving and being released in steps. We didn't have the whole system designed at the start of back in 2014. So maybe we will take a look at if there's a way to repackage, and if so, we will also invite the full force of the team, the new team, Free League team, to take a look at some balance issues and such. But as we have said time and time again, in relation to the 5e Kickstarter, Symbaroum is here to stay. Original Symbaroum is here to stay, and it will not be a drastically different game going forth.
Well, that sounds like a brilliant segue, doesn't it, Dave?
Well, actually, I've got one more question.
Okay, one more question.
Which one of the great things that you've always done with Symbaroum and with new editions is you've added more advanced rules and more additions that the GMs and players can roll into their games depending on their personal styles. Is there going to be more of that in Haunted Waste?
There is not much more rules and stuff in it. There are a few. Let me put it like this: there are a few mystical ceremonies, which are these enormously powerful rituals that you perform collectively, and that always have kind of damaging impact on the world around you when you perform that. There will be some new monstrous traits, I believe, but in this case, we are, as you know, we are leaving for the first time. We are leaving the Davoka region, traveling back to the lost land of Alberetor. And that also means that a good part of the book will be about presenting this new environment, this Symbaroum version of Mordor, as I said before. Also providing further guidelines when it comes to travels in these lands, and also tables with random encounters and terrain types and mishaps that can occur when traveling down south. And also some resources for developing your own adventures down there. Basically, you can hex crawl. You can hex crawl in Alberetor the way that you could do in Mother of Darkness in Davoka.
Yeah, nice.
So great. Yeah, it feels like Symbaroum is supposed to be super grimdark.
Is this getting grimdark?
The thing is that I feel the absolutely best feeling when developing a setting, or indeed creating a setting, is when you feel that it is already there and you are only discovering it.
Yeah.
And so that's the feeling I always search for. And as for, is this grimmer than grimdark? Yeah, in some senses I could say that it will surprise you in some ways that are probably not all party and jubilations. But it isn't Mordor. It isn't,
no.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to, there is points of light. There are points of light even below the Titans, and not only in the form of a giant eye that watches everything and sends a spotlight on the ground, but actual points of light. So, and that's super important to me, because without those points of light, the darkness is impossible to see.
Yeah. That's one thing, isn't it, about Mordor? It is just a black hole of evil, and but that's fine. They're great. But actually, in a game like Symbaroum, where nothing is ever black or black or white, it's all shades of grey. That sounds excellent.
Again, Frank, I'm quoting Frank a lot here, but he's saying this is like Twilight Alberetor.
Yeah, in some ways, if you provided that it doesn't mean the silly vampire tale with the
I think about Twilight 2000.
Let's hope. So, romantic vampires in Symbaroum, excellent, great, just what we've
got a scoop. Just to sort of finish off with a couple of other questions. you talked earlier about there possibly being some thought about putting all the different bits of information from all the different books into one thing, but you haven't.
Oh, not one thing. That wouldn't be. You couldn't carry that
That'd be
around. but possibly looking at. I mean, now that we are doing 5e, we are doing a player's guide, we're doing a game master's guide, and a bestiary. And I mean, that's for the grand fantasy IPs of the world. That's a pretty standard way of going about it. And it in Symbaroum, maybe it feels even more to the point, because it's a player-facing rule set. So it feels. I mean, if you make a player's guide including not only player character generation but also the player rules, the game master will never have to sort of censor anything. When it comes to Symbaroum.
The game master's book can be all full of the secrets.
I mean, now we are speculating, but this is a question for the team, not for me as a person. Even if as game director, I have quite the say in the matter, but we always discuss everything with the whole Free League crew
team.
So exactly how we will organize it is not decided. Or I mean, the cool thing has been working with. It's Mattias Lilja who designed the rule set from the beginning, and over this stretch of time that we have worked on it, it has dawned on me more and more just how flexible and modular it is. Because if we want to add optional rules or alternative rules, it's been done with ease and fit perfectly into the system. And it never, to me, it feels like those rules never get too crunchy. I mean, it's fairly easy to keep them on the same level of complexity, and also offer options for those who want to add complexity to it. So that's a strength.
Okay, then. So we've got a couple of examples for your rethink to share with the team. So Fane here is suggesting Symbaroum Beyond, like D&D Beyond. I guess that's an online resource. And we've also got from Pickbub. Hi, Pickbub. Welcome to the show. I don't think we've had you on before. And he is wondering about a glossary of all the NPCs.
But there is one.
There is one.
Yeah,
that's funny enough. That's what,
it is not fully updated, but on the Free League site, you look at games, and then you go to Symbaroum, and you find downloads, and there you will find. I'm not 100% sure what the file is called, but it is an Excel sheet where you can sort the entries according to which book they are in, which faction they belong to, if any, a little bit about who they are and their history. And I think it features something like 900 entries. But then many of those NPCs are deceased, so it's figures from history.
Cool.
So, but that and I have an updated version that is updated with Albertor, up to Albertor, in Swedish. It is this work is done by Erik Hylander, who wrote Adventure Pack 4. The two adventures in Adventure Pack 4. And he does it more or less for himself. And then he told me about it, and I asked him, can we please share this? So, but we need to translate the newest entries and make it all. So it should be updated somewhere during the summer, hopefully, with even more colorful Gals and dolls. That's girls, both of them, right?
Guys and gals.
Guys and dolls. Guys and dolls.
So I'm just looking at the site. I can't see one with an obvious title, but maybe if you can remember what it's called after the show, we'll add it to the show notes.
I think you can find it if you download the free overview of the Copper Crown from Drive-Thru RPG. It is a second file in that product, so to speak, which is this NPC registry. If you haven't, if it's gone because we've rearranged the homepage a couple of times, so maybe I will write down to take a look and make sure that it is there.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So just to finish up on the Haunted Waste, the pre-order, when is that going to run to?
It will. Two things I want to say about the pre-order. I thought about it.
Can I just interrupt you here because we've got comments. It is a Throne of Thorns NPC gallery, and it is there on the homepage. So it is there. So don't worry. You don't need to do anything urgent unless you need to update it with the very latest version in English.
Yeah. I heard you mentioned this guy who just got the starter set and have started playing a little bit. We are in the pre-order now. You can order a bundle with an adventure collection that features 6 adventures, full-length adventures, and it's a combination of the Copper Crown, Adventure Pack 2, and Adventure Pack 3. So for any new players, check that out. The second is that I was going to answer your question, namely for how long will this go on? We will keep it running at least until we are ready to circulate a beta PDF, and that should be mid-May.
Okay, mid-May.
Now,
so a couple of months yet.
Yeah, and if you pre-order, you will also get access to a pre-order exclusive digital art book of the art featured in the Haunted Waste, which is
probably worth the price of pre-order in itself, frankly.
I mean, you get the art in the books and in the PDFs, but actually, people, I was a little bit, I mean, why do people want a standalone art book of the art that is already in the books? But apparently people find it really, really good to have at the table, to have it on a small screen or something to set the mood.
And particularly this last year where we're doing so much gaming online, it's nice to have that in a PDF viewer and just share that page when we want to add a bit of atmosphere to the online table.
Yes.
Excellent.
So that's it. Mid-May, but these last years, we have been going more and more to keeping the pre-orders open as long as possible.
Yeah.
We will need a couple of weeks between pre-order and the actual launch to get all the order lists done and make sure that our shipping companies actually focus on the pre-orders first. So we'll see.
Yeah, brilliant.
But a while longer.
Yeah.
But Thane has already pre-ordered, and he's as it sounds to me, are going to be doing the whole campaign.
Excellent.
Now let us turn to a whole world of new players that we are about to welcome.
Yes.
The most popular role-playing game, tabletop role-playing game, and role-playing game, and the longest lived, pretty much, and the biggest brand, 5e. You're doing a 5e version, the Ruins of Symbaroum, which is going to be really exciting. A whole bunch more people coming into contact with 3 League for the first time, and of course with Symbaroum. Now you did a little sort of free sampler on Drive-Thru RPG, and that was obviously a success because you wouldn't be doing this.
I mean, it's been to push ourselves to really finish up that work, because we have been toying with this idea ever since we thought of Symbaroum. Or rather, since we thought of Symbaroum and saw Adventures in Middle Earth,
Right.
you know, the One Ring adaptation to 5e.
Yeah.
And we thought, because, I mean, there are some fans of the original game who have talked about this project as the ruin of Symbaroum, which I find so smart and funny that I just have to mention it.
You have to smile about it, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, I can assure everyone that that won't be the case, rather the opposite, because when we talked already 4 years ago, talked about this, it wasn't ever a discussion about, you know, replacing. It was just a way to, because we know how super dominant 5e is, and this marvelously popular game, and we have people you know, coming up to us at conventions and writing to us over the years that say, "Ah, man, I want to play with Symbaroum with my gaming group," but they don't want to play anything other than 5e. So I don't know. It to me, it's not a very dramatic decision. I mean, we will see come Tuesday how significant it will be. But to us, so far, it has mostly been about making the setting of Symbaroum available to more players who want, instead, you know, if you describe the Symbaroum rule set as quick, deadly, flexible, and highly, you know, focusing on freedom rather than balance. You have the 5e rule set, which is like
the opposite of all of those.
The fact that you use a D20 to roll your success tests. So, and to us, I mean, it's not a very dramatic thing that people like different rule sets. It's like I talked to Phil Garrity on the Dark Orb a week ago and said, I think it was with him, it may have been with Doug. Anyway, that it's like people have different tastes in rock music or whatever. Anyone can enjoy a setting.
Yes,
I feel, if it's properly created, designed. But you cannot create the one rule set that everybody will love.
Yeah,
that's just not possible, because it's so much has to do with preferences in play style, and what, especially I would argue, what you grew up playing.
Yeah. So is the intention, if this is successful, would the intention be to bring the Throne of Thorns out in a 5e version in due course?
We have to talk about that when we see how the Kickstarter turns out, because I mean, that would be another huge investment, and we would probably not do it right away. We would want to get these books out into retail and see how many people are interested. We have about 1,200 people signed up for notifications. Not at all sure what that means, because I mean, there were I think 6,000 or something like that signed up for the One Ring when we did that Kickstarter.
Right.
But that was, on the other hand, we had, you know, lots of new players, new to the Free League, that comes from the One Ring, from Francesco and the team. And in this case, I mean, all people who have backed our projects before, they don't need to sign up beforehand, because they will get a notification anyway. Yeah. So it's super hard and
to judge what it'll be. Yeah.
When we did the Mother of Darkness, I pretty much nailed it on the Swedish crown, where we would end that Kickstarter. But now, I mean, you look at the One Ring. I mean, there wasn't one of us that were in the ballpark of where that ended up. I can tell you, it was white knuckled clinging on to something just not to fall over. It was crazy.
That was an extraordinary success. But there's a massive audience out there for D&D.
Absolutely, but they have tons and tons of settings to play around in. So why would they choose Symbaroum? I have no idea. We'll see.
Okay, and this may be a pertinent time for a question from our audience as well. Some time ago, when we were talking about Alberator, you said this isn't a game of heroes, but of course D&D is a game of heroes. So how does that change in the ruins of Symbaroum? I mean, they're not going to be heroes in the ruins of Symbaroum, are they?
Well, as always, when you make a role-playing game, it is up to the gaming group how to play.
Yeah.
And I would argue also that, I mean, if you want to play Symbaroum in a heroic fashion, it is fully possible because you can get quite apt at wielding your sword or weaving your spells or whatnot.
I guess the main reason why it's hard to play heroic mode in original Symbaroum is because you just get killed.
Anyway, to answer your question, the first thing we agreed on when we started working on this 5e concept was that alignments had to go.
Okay.
So, which I hope makes sense to anyone. I need to turn off my phone here so that it don't bother us. Sorry for that. Another thing is that we have, because we have brought in Jacob Rogers, who is quite known and maybe even famous in 5e circles who are working with 5e adaptions. And we had a great dialogue, and he read Symbaroum and he understood Symbaroum. And I mean, this will still be a 5e game, but I think the adjustments or optional alternative rules put in place especially for rest, and what rest actions do. One of the things here is that you won't just go to sleep more or less bloodied and then wake up and be right as rain.
Fine, yeah.
That's one thing. Then you have the corruption mechanic, which alters the way magic works a lot. The threat of corruption is maybe not as in your face in 5e, but it is there, and it is definitely something else than vanilla 5e. So that is how we do it. And also when designing adventures, they will be, I mean, take Tomb of Dying Dreams as an example. That's more or less the first adventures where we send the player characters out into a ruin in Davokar. And what do they meet there? Yeah, they meet the creeping darkness, they meet Fangafa, they meet Sanata, the great spider. And they will not be able to, put a dent in any of these. They are there to show how, I think Mattias Lilja put a text box there regarding the value of overly powerful enemies and what they force the gaming group to do. You can't, when you know you face an opponent that you will die if you go up against them, you will need to find other ways to deal with the problem at hand.
Yeah.
So, and that, I mean, that you will see in Ruins and Symbar as well. You can't throw damage dice at every problem and hope that it goes away.
No, that all sounds excellent. So I haven't played a lot of 5e over the years. I've played one campaign and I enjoyed it. It didn't make me want to play loads. But actually, some of the stuff that you're talking about there, Mattias, which is sort of taking some of the edge off 5e that perhaps I don't like so much, and bringing in some of these other concepts, like the influencing magic with corruption and such like. It's actually piquing my interest in 5e games.
I mean, and you can have a look at this trial balloon, or it's not just a teaser. It's 97 pages or something like that, and you get some of the alternative rules, and you get a couple of new player classes and origins, which is and approaches, and also ready-made play characters and 2 adventures. We updated the PDF we added the Blight Knight scenario. And just check it out, because the reactions. I'm not a 5e expert in any sense of that word. I am more. I'm the project lead. I will run the Kickstarter. I will make sure that the content align with as much as possible with the Symbaroum lore and so on. But the reactions we have had to that PDF they have been great, and a lot of people have been looking for exactly this. A more making 5e a little bit grittier. Or at least down to earth, or more real, or more serious, or I don't know how to put it, but
less of a sort of fantasy kind of heroic fairy tale kind of game, rather than something a bit more grounded, perhaps.
Now, just on the Kickstarter's always fun because there's loads
for
of
you,
stuff. For us, the people paying the money. Then there's all sorts of exclusive things, be it fancy hardcovers or dice or stuff like that. Can you tell us about any exciting stretch goals that will whet our appetite, make Dave invest in a 5e game?
No, I mean, we have talked about a little bit about do we add stretch goals that are unique to the 5e? That are unique to the 5e concept, just to but you who are already playing Symbaroum will recognize most of the stuff that we will offer as stretch goals. And the stretch goals will mainly be about 2 things: providing adventures for you to play, and in that respect, we won't dive into the Throne of Thorns directly. No. But focus more on the smaller adventure packs and such. So that is one thing. The other thing is physical player aids, mostly in the form of player maps.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
nice.
And then there are the third kind of stretch goals, which is extensions. We have stuff. You who know Symbaroum Raw know that in the Advanced Player's Guide we introduced, I think, 5 or 6 new playable origins or races, and we also introduced something that is called professions, which is like, a second level career type of thing, where you can apply for a membership in the Wrath Guard if you have reached a certain level in certain skills. So we have all these really cool and thematically interesting professions, for instance, that we have not worked them into the system 100%. They are like on the drawing board, but we are not super sure that they will be in the final book. So, but if we get the resources to, delve a little bit deeper into those professions and make them, as an approach or a subclass in D&D 5e, you have to be they have to be available from level 1, of course. So there's a little bit of work to do there, and also we have a little bit of we have to do some new images and such. So the player's guide will have some room to grow if this Kickstarter is successful as well.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
cool.
And that are we done on Symba, Dave?
And that opens on Tuesday. Just for
on Tuesday at 3
13th, is that? Yep.
Yeah. 3 p.m. Central European time. So I guess over at you it will be 2 o'clock.
Yep.
And 1 o'clock UTC.
Okay. I have never understood what UTC is.
It's Greenwich Mean Time,
it's
but with
GMT,
a title that everybody
it's
feels.
GMT. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that I know what it is.
Because I guess some, maybe the Americans don't like calling it Greenwich.
I think it's more likely to be the French who are upset having to call it Greenwich. We had a war over it. They wanted it in the Paris.
Anyway, let's back to Symbaroum. Brilliant. So if anyone's interested in that, be ready for Tuesday at 3 o'clock.
Excellent.
And you can sign up already to get a notification when it launches.
Now we're overrunning, but I've got a couple of other questions for you, Mattias. It's a long time since we've seen you. My first question is, last time we talked, you were not only heading up the Symbaroum team, but also the Coriolis team. And you mentioned to me an email a few weeks ago that Mattias Lilia is back in charge of Coriolis.
Yes.
So can you tell us a bit more about when that happened?
Was this a palace coup, or what was this?
No, I mean, Mattias Lilia basically left his day job.
Cool.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know exactly when this was, but it was before the turn of the year. And when he did that and came on more or less full time for Free League, it felt. I mean, he's the father of Coriolis, so that he should. He had been spearheading this 5e project on his,
on
free time, part time. So when he came in, it felt more logical that he would pick up and restart the nurturing of his own baby Coriolis, and I would take the lead on the 5e project. So that is what happened. It's not very dramatic at all. Production-wise, we are very much a team and help out wherever we can. So.
Well, it's great to have him back. It's great to have him working full time.
Oh yeah.
In Sweden. So we'll have to invite him onto the show at some point.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we've got you at the moment, and so we're going to ask you a bunch of questions that you may not know any answers to. But our fans are demanding that today, Friday, is the last moment that they were going to be promised their PDF for Twilight 2000, and they're saying, "Is it going to drop today?" So I know you have very little to do with it, and it should be Thomas who are asking, but I'm going to ask you because you're here.
This is your opportunity, Mattias, to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's get stuffed is the answer there.
No, I would be very surprised if it turned up today. Right. We are working on it, but as you said, we have so many projects, and it is like all it takes is that one project see a product expand, for instance, or there is some kind of problem at the printer or whatnot, and we are not a bigger company than that. We feel this, we suffer from such mishaps along the way, and you have to suffer with us. But I have seen a lot of the game file, but I don't think it will be ready today. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. It's just great to manage
If
people's
it is,
expectations.
you will be super happy and not the least mad at me.
Don't worry, we're not going to be mad at you.
It's an order.
The next
So
question.
Mattias, you're confirming it'll definitely be today then. Okay, excellent. Sorry.
No, he's promising they're going to work through the weekend and deliver it on Sunday. No,
That's when Mattias would go, dunk, I'm out of here.
the other thing that I just wondered whether you had any intelligence on. I know we should be asking Nils about this, but people are very excited for Graham's. Shall we call it? Oh, you're right. You do have to squeeze your arms together. Mythic Britain.
You look like a dinosaur.
Tyrannosaurus Rex impression.
Mythic Britain. I know super little about that project because it's on Nils's table and it is quite early on. So I mean, again, we as a team we tend to poke our noses into every project that gets pushed through the pipe at some point or another, but I haven't looked at it very closely yet. But I'm super happy to see that we can expect more stuff for Vaesen.
Absolutely.
I mean, Mythic Britain, it feels like no-brainer. I mean,
our team, our patrons prefer Sceptred Isles to Mythic Britain because we've already got in this country a Mythic Britain RPG anyway.
Yeah.
So
it's a working title, so maybe we will. Oh, I sounded very Swedish when I said that. I heard myself say, yeah, it's a working title. Anyway, it's a working title, so maybe...
You are Swedish. It's okay to sound Swedish, Mattias. It's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but not quite as cliched as Swede as Mattias was sounding there. Do we have to draw this to an end? It's fabulous talking to you, Mattias. But
always
we've gone
a
on
pleasure.
for pretty much an hour. So you've got stuff to do. You've got work to do on two big Symbaroum projects. So we'll let you get back. And thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, it's been a delight as always, Mattias. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. And I mean, just ping me again if you want to chat about something. I mean, we could meet up during the Kickstarter maybe, and depending on how it goes.
Oh,
definitely up for that.
Maybe do another live show like this.
Maybe bring Lilia along.
Oh,
perfect. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that later. Promises, but
we'll have a chat.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Great idea.
Okay, and we'll say goodbye to our viewers.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
And this content will be available in the podcast, which we hope will come out later this weekend. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.